Hey, everybody. We've made it. It's Friday, May 30th, 2025. You're listening to the Mo News Podcast. I'm Moshe Wanunu.
And I'm Jill Wagner. This is the place where we bring you just the facts.
And we read all the news and read between the lines so you don't have to. And Jill, sometimes we take polls, unscientific polls, I should note, over on the Instagram feed. For those of you who tuned in yesterday, you know that we went through the new study that claims that you should be showering in the morning and not at night. It led to a heated debate. I was once a morning shower becoming a night shower, thanks to my wife, who was like, you're not getting in bed if you don't shower at night. So I've converted. But then the study came out, Jill, that the microbiologist, whoever this microbiologist is like, no. You should actually be showering in the morning.
Yes, Moshe. The very scientific report from a Dr. Primrose Fieldstone was her name?
Freestone. Primrose Freestone, yes. Out of the UK. So anyway, we were curious, out of the Mo News community, when do y'all shower? Here are the numbers. First 10,000 votes are in, Jill, as we put up the poll midday on Thursday. 42% morning, 43% night. So basically a 50-50 split there, with 8% of you saying you shower multiple times a day, 7% of you in the midday category along with Jill. Jill's a midday shower. So 7% of you join Jill as a midday showers, and then basically it's a 42-42 split right now between morning and evening.
If you work from home, the midday shower is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I realize it's not necessarily possible for many people.
Many people wanted another category to the poll. They wanted the I'm a parent, I shower when I can,
right.
Depending on whether my kids let me do it or not category. So some of you, sorry to say, are living at a point in your life where there is no consistency to the shower because, you got little ones dictating that for you. So some of you mixing it up. And then, of course, just about 1 out of 10 of you doing the multiple showers a day thing, which is something Jill had discussed yesterday, which is how you make sure there's the least amount of, BO and all this stuff that we talked about, this microbiologist found in our body and on our sheets. You shower multiple times.
It doesn't take much, Moshe. I'm known for the quickie shower.
As long as you got somebody to watch the little humans. So, you turn your head for 30 seconds or a minute for a quick shower even, and they could do a lot of damage.
Actually, I have a strategy. My son comes into the bathroom with me and he lines up all of his cars on the edge of the shower. And it buys me 10 minutes, I think. I usually could get him almost a 10-minute shower in. It's not always relaxing, but it is a way to shower.
Yeah. No, we've already with our toddler, we bring her in the bathroom and I'm like, all right, it's a good way, especially as we're potty training, to get them comfortable and teach them what goes on in there. And I won't go into further details, but ultimately,
tell us more, Moshe. How are you teaching Olivia by example?
Jill will say this, that, ultimately, I think the strategy to bring your kid in the bathroom and hoping that they can not be bored or run off after a few minutes is, usually works out, at least not knock on wood.
Okay, Moshe, the good news is that everyone in the Mo News community, it sounds like, is showering every day.
I didn't give the choice that you don't shower.
Right.
That was not a choice in the poll, and maybe yet another reason why this poll was not scientific. But I didn't get many. Usually I get people who send me a message being like, oh, you didn't, I need a category for this. I do this. But for the most part, morning, midday, evening, and then multiple times a day were our 4 choices. And that's where things stand. If somehow a surprising surge happens in one of the categories, I'll let you know next week.
Okay, now to the headlines. The Trump administration continues to crack down on international student visas. This time it's for students from China. We'll tell you why. The parents are not all right. Probably not a surprise. Some new numbers show that mental health for moms in the United States has taken a really big hit in the last decade. Dads doing slightly better, but their mental health also down. On again, off again, on again, where things stand with President Trump's tariffs after some big court rulings.
Jill, this is core to what he is trying to do. A lot of frustration at the White House with this court ruling. We'll give you the details.
The Department of Health and Human Services cancels funding to vaccines that were designed to combat bird flu. We'll tell you why. Something you've got to see to believe: a Swiss village buried after a glacier collapses in the Alps. Hailey Bieber, the next Rihanna, selling her beauty company for $1 billion.
Yeah, we'll tell you about the incredible story of Rode. Jill, when she first launched it, I happened to be at a conference, the Wall Street Journal conference out there in California, where she was first talking about the idea, and just to see how it got from there to here in just a couple of years here. An incredible story for Hailey Bieber.
The happiest cities in the world. Did any U.S. cities make the list?
You got to go far down the list, Jill.
But I think that the number one happiest city in the U.S. might surprise people.
I think it will. Make your guesses right now as to what you think the happiest city in America is.
Plus, it is Friday. Cheers to the freaking weekend, what we are watching, reading, and eating. All right, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced this week that the United States will aggressively revoke Chinese students' visas. The focus will be on students with ties to the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, studying in critical fields. Rubio didn't clarify what those critical fields would be, but more than 110,000 Chinese students at U.S. universities are studying math, engineering, or science and technology-related fields. This move is a major escalation. It isn't entirely surprising, though. Intelligence officials across administrations have been warning that campuses are increasingly vulnerable to espionage, especially from China, which has laws that require citizens aid state intelligence efforts. The Trump administration has been targeting foreign students' visas over perceived risks to American universities and culture. Looking at the numbers here, though, 1 in every 4 international students in the United States comes from China. As we've mentioned before, they usually pay full tuition, which is a huge source of revenue for universities. During the last school year, international students contributed $43.8 billion to the U.S. economy and supported about 400,000 jobs. In all, there were about 275,000 Chinese students in the U.S. last year. That's actually down from a peak of 370,000 back in 2019. Chinese students are the second largest foreign student population in the U.S., behind students from India. On Thursday, a Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson called the plan to revoke the Chinese students' visas politically motivated and discriminatory, saying that it disrupts people-to-people exchanges between the two countries.
Jill, there's still a lot of questions here when it comes to who exactly will be booted, what connections or what the state of connections to the Chinese Communist Party may mean, and what is the cutoff. Because keep in mind that about 100 million people in China belong to the Chinese Communist Party. As a Chinese citizen, joining the party gains you social advantages, economic advantages. It's more than just political loyalty. So where will they draw the line here, given that about 20 to 25% of our foreign students here in the U.S. are Chinese? They make up a lot of our research labs on a variety of campuses. But as you mentioned, there has been increasing concern in recent years about China utilizing students, among many different tactics, and people and personnel here in the U.S. to spy on the U.S. Remember, it's China's government goal to become the most powerful, most influential nation on earth. That they think America's time is up and they are going for number one. And that means that they're utilizing every potential tool, including all these students on college campuses, to help them gain an advantage, help them learn what the U.S. is doing, and then in some cases intellectual property theft, like literally stealing certain aspects of it. Because keep in mind that a lot of the research, a lot of the cutting edge things being developed here in the U.S. are happening on college campuses. It's one of the reasons why the U.S. government spends so much money in research and grants on college campuses, because that's where a lot of the work is happening. Well, who's doing some of that work? Foreign Chinese students. And there has been evidence in recent years that the Chinese Ministry of State Security, which is the world's largest and most active spy agency, is utilizing Chinese citizens abroad, including in the U.S., including on college campuses, to spy on its behalf. Now, notably, Xi Jinping, the leader of China, his daughter went to Harvard about 15 years ago. She actually attended under a pseudonym. And so, even the highest levels of Chinese leadership are pushing for their children and family members to study here. And it's interesting because there's many more Chinese students in the U.S. than American students studying in China back in 2020. And we've heard this from a number of national security officials. At the time, the FBI Director Christopher Wray said that China is exploiting our open academic environment for research and development. There have been officials in the Obama administration, the Trump administration, the Biden administration, who've all warned over time here that increasingly, including on some of the most elite campuses, Harvard, Stanford, MIT, the Chinese government is utilizing students to spy on its behalf. And so that is one of the key things here to keep in mind. And so we'll be looking at details here, or looking for details here, I should say, from Marco Rubio and the federal government as to what exactly they're going to do here. Because, as you also mentioned, Chinese students typically pay full tuition and are a huge revenue stream for universities.
Now to some new numbers about mothers and their mental health. Only about a fourth of moms in the United States say that they have excellent physical and mental health. This is according to a study that was published this week in JAMA Internal Medicine. Researchers looked at nearly 200,000 mothers with kids under 18 years old. The health outcomes were measured on a 4-point scale, including excellent, very good, good, and then fair or poor. In less than 10 years, from 2016 to 2023, the number of moms who said that they had excellent mental health declined from about 38% to 26%. Good mental health, that actually rose from 19% to 26%. But fair or poor mental health rose from about 5.5% to 8.5%. Physical health also took a dip, but not nearly as much. And this was across all socioeconomic groups. But in general, mental and physical health was significantly lower for single female parents, those who may not have attended college or finished high school, and those with publicly insured children, which would indicate a lower income. As for causes, the authors of the report say more research is needed, but there are some theories like limited access to mental health care, isolation, rising substance use disorders, and just widespread stressors, everything from inflation and everything costing more to gun violence and even climate change. Of course, the big world event, Moshe, that happened during that time period from 2016 to 2023 was the pandemic, and it hit most demographics pretty hard, but particularly parents, many of whom didn't have access to childcare because schools were closed. We saw mental health really decline during that period. So perhaps some of it is a holdover. Moshe, the numbers for men also down, but not by as much.
Jill, another major factor I imagine played a role in this is just the cost of childcare, which just if you look at the last 4 years, childcare costs rose 29%, third there, and in some cases even more, depending on where you live. More than 40% of American families now struggling with affordable options. So not surprising here that just all the stressors that moms are facing right now. There's a lot of data to back this up. There were drops in both excellent physical and mental health within the same 8-year period for women as well as men, though they did have better health scores overall, the men did, versus their female counterparts. Jill, we've been covering this story for a while here on this podcast over on the Instagram feed. Last year, former U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy put out a health advisory called Parents Under Pressure, and he pointed out why this matters, the impact that the stress of parents has on the larger society, pointing out in that report, the work of parenting is essential not only for the health of children, but also for the health of society. Additionally, we know that the well-being of parents and caregivers is directly linked to the well-being of children, and the well-being of children as they grow up is key here. And they did note in that report that something has to change. That was a literal quote from the report. Something has to change. Supporting parents and caregivers will require a series of thoughtful policy changes and expanded community programs. Jill, I know there was some talk of this on the campaign trail last year. Congress has been focused on a lot of things, but we haven't seen much work around this issue, particularly, again, the cost of childcare. And, it comes, as you've seen from the White House and from countries around the world, that they're looking to increase the birth rate in countries. And a lot of parents would push back on that and say, you want me to have more kids? Support us.
Yeah, childcare is a fortune. But Moshe, I did really appreciate what the former U.S. Surgeon General had to say about the well-being of parents directly impacting the well-being of their kids, because I think a lot of moms in particular have guilt around taking time for themselves, not always being around. And the opposing argument to that is that just so you have a night out or you take an adult-only vacation and you come back as a healthier person or maybe just a happier parent, which has a positive impact on your kids.
Yeah, one of the things that we've talked to parenting experts a lot on the interview podcast as well, and I don't know if it was Neha Roosh or Jennifer Wallace, we've had a few books featured recently on the interview podcast, and they talked about just the importance of friends and socializing, that the one thing that goes, or the first thing that goes for many parents, is their friendships as they prioritize their kids. And we got all those crazy TikToks and Instagram reels, Jill, telling us, don't do this. Don't do this. You should do this. You're a terrible parent if you don't do this. And I think that all gets to parents. I mean, they look at the numbers now, and parents have never spent more time with their kids. And yet it's leading to, well, we know the numbers when it comes to kids. We know the numbers when it comes to parents right now. So I think you make a good point there that parents got to take care of themselves. Speaking of which, Jill, Alex and I are headed on a vacation very soon. Just the two of us next month. So a heads up, folks. I'm around next week, but then mid-June, I'm gone for a few days abroad.
A few.
Jill, specifically, I'm off the podcast for 7 days. I just want to know it'll be 7 podcasts.
Guys, you're in very good hands. We have some
I'm going to be recording one of the
up.
podcasts from at the airport is the plan right now. That's how devoted I am to all of you.
All I could say is, when the cat's away, get ready.
Who knows? Who knows what this thing is going to be by the time I get back? I'll be like, you did what with Instagram? You did what with the podcast?
The
what
podcast
decision?
is 15 minutes? What's happening?
Well, I mean, Jill knows this very well. When she went on maternity leave, when we first launched the podcast, she left. We had just launched it for a few weeks. It was twice a week at that point. And when she came back from maternity leave, I made it a daily podcast.
I'm like, okay. Cool.
Okay, good to know.
I guess we're
Thanks,
doing
Moshe.
this thing every day.
Welcome back. Good to be back.
All right, time for the speed read, starting with the latest on President Trump's tariffs from Axios. A lot of back and forth in the courts over the last 48 hours. The latest, a federal appellate court on Thursday temporarily paused a ruling that effectively wiped out most of President Trump's tariffs. It means that the tariffs will stay in effect for now, as the courts consider both sides of the argument. It all comes after a bipartisan panel of judges on the Court of International Trade unanimously blocked most of Trump's announced tariffs dating back to February. The trade court ruled that Trump didn't have the authority under the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose sweeping, reciprocal, and retaliatory tariffs, arguing that the law didn't grant the president, quote, unbounded authority to impose tariffs on nearly every country. The administration immediately appealed and suggested on Thursday that it could go straight to the Supreme Court to seek relief if other courts didn't act quickly enough. So that was the ruling on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit issued an order staying the trade court's ruling while it considers motions from both sides. It ordered the plaintiffs in the case to file a response by next Thursday and then the government to reply by June 9th. So basically a lot of uncertainty on the future of these tariffs.
Yeah, and it's not all the tariffs. It's all the tariffs that he declared under that International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And he's been trying to use it in a way, Jill, that no one else has used it before. And that's something the court made note of. You noted it was a unanimous ruling. 2 of the judges appointed by Republicans. One of those judges appointed by a Republican named Donald Trump. So one of the judges who ruled against him was a judge that he appointed to the court. And so you had the White House, nonetheless, taking aim at what they called activist judges here, unelected activist judges who are overturning our economic policy. Here's a bit of Kevin Hassett. He is the head of Trump's National Economic Council. This is what he told Fox Business yesterday.
Activist judges are trying to slow down something right in the middle of really important negotiations. And the idea that the fentanyl crisis in America is not an emergency is so appalling to me that I'm sure that when we appeal, that this decision will be overturned.
So you have Hassett and other Trump officials here arguing that there's the fentanyl crisis, other issues that made this an emergency situation for Trump. And the court here saying, no, that's not how we interpret emergencies. And you can't just declare an emergency and announce tariffs on most of the world. So which tariffs are impacted here? The ones that he declared under this International Emergency Economic Powers Act. So which are they? China tariffs, the 10% global tariff, those reciprocal tariffs that are on pause, the tariffs on Canada, and the tariffs on Mexico. Significant tariffs. Now, he does have separate tariffs that he's declared on steel, aluminum, specific industries. He used different laws to declare those tariffs, so they are unaffected here. And as you mentioned, Jill, the ruling itself from Wednesday is on pause right now. So the tariffs still in effect, but those tariffs on China, most of the world, those are the ones in question here that the judges will have to think about. This will likely go to where else? The Supreme Court. And we'll see what they rule here. But it's significant because right now our effective tariff rate is the highest it's been in 100 years at about 18%. If these tariffs are basically ruled unconstitutional, they would fall to 7%. We'd have a 7% global tariff, which is still the highest tariff since the 1960s, but not as significant as today. So that is one of the things we'll be watching here. But certainly just the latest here, challenge to one of the Trump executive orders or unilateral moves that he's made, and a continuing fight here between the judiciary branch and the executive.
From the Washington Post, the Department of Health and Human Services is pulling millions of dollars that it had committed to give Moderna to aid in the effort to develop a vaccine to combat the bird flu in humans. This is according to the company. Under former President Biden, HHS had announced its intent last summer to award $176 million and then a subsequent $590 million to Moderna. Amid an outbreak of infectious bird flu in dairy cattle, the virus has infected 70 people since last year, and federal health officials had previously described the effort as critical to strengthening the country's pandemic preparedness. The company was developing vaccines using messenger RNA, which is that same technology used in the most commonly administered COVID vaccines.
So at issue here, Jill, it appears, is just the technology, mRNA. When you look at the statement here from a Health and Human Services spokesman, Andrew Nixon, he says, after rigorous review, we concluded that continued investment in Moderna's mRNA vaccine was not scientifically or ethically justifiable. So Moderna now saying it's going to explore alternatives here for developing the vaccine covered by the contract, even though they say they had pretty good results here from the first few tests related to the vaccine. But we know that HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been critical of mRNA vaccines, frankly, most vaccines, for a long time here. It comes in a week where they cut back on recommendations for the COVID vaccine for most of the population, though they did leave the recommendation in place for those over 65 or those with pre-existing conditions. But this is just the latest sign of uncertainty within HHS, how they're going to be pursuing various vaccines. And the thing about the bird flu, Jill, is we know it's inevitable that at some point it will make a significant jump to humans. We just don't know when. We've been talking about this since the 90s. But at some point, there's going to be some sort of variant here that starts to impact people in a real way. And that's why you saw this contract awarded, that they want to get ahead of this H5N1 for that scenario. But for now, based on their feelings about mRNA technology, it appears the government is not investing in it.
Right. And I was listening to an interview with the doctor on Thursday, and she was just saying her concern is, what is the plan B here? If bird flu were to actually really become a pandemic that impacted humans and started to make people really sick, what would be the plan? What would be the backup plan? Her point was, you do need to plan for the worst case scenario, as we saw with the coronavirus pandemic back in 2020.
Yeah, and there is a national stockpile of existing H5N1 vaccine, that's avian flu, to protect humans. But the question is, would it be enough? No, there are not enough shots. And also, the other issue is, if the virus changes significantly, will that vaccine even be effective? Now, the government does have other avian flu contracts. Again, this goes to the core concerns RFK has regarding just this new technology, mRNA, which we do know has been revolutionary and is going to be, in many ways, the way we pursue vaccines in the future. If you talk to various folks in the pharma industry and the biomedical world, one of the reasons being mRNA vaccines can quickly be altered to match the newest versions of the virus versus the older way of putting together vaccines. So again, we are going to see how this goes. Kennedy's whole thing when it comes to containing the bird flu, a little more unorthodox. He suggested that instead of culling birds when the infection is discovered, farmers should let the virus run through their flocks. But, there's a lot of folks out there in the science world that say that that is inhumane and dangerous to experiment in that way.
All right, going to Europe now. This story from NPR. A Swiss alpine village was largely wiped out this week after a massive glacier carrying rock and debris detached and then roared down the mountainside, basically destroying everything in its path. Scientists had predicted that there would be a disaster earlier this month, so authorities evacuated the entire village of 300 people in this region of Switzerland, just south of the capital Bern on May 19th. Sheep and even grazing cows were actually airlifted by helicopter. But Moshe, this is the type of video you've just got to see to believe. Video footage of the collapsing glacier went viral this week as the natural disaster unfolded. You could see this massive cloud of rock, ice, and dirt rising up and enveloping the mountains and valley. It reminded some people of the cloud of an atomic bomb. A local geologist said that what happened is the unthinkable, the catastrophic worst case scenario. He said scientists knew that something was coming because there had been increasingly frequent rock falls from the mountain face onto the glacier. But he said the total collapse of the glacier, that was not predicted.
So the local government saying on Thursday the Birch Glacier had collapsed in its near entirety above the village of Blatten. Ice and rock several dozens of yards thick and about a mile long now lie in the valley. The before and after photos, Jill, pretty remarkable here. We posted a bit on the Instagram page on Thursday. And what is notable here about the Birch Glacier that is different from others, it's the only glacier that's been advancing in the past few decades. While most have been melting and receding and getting smaller, this one basically had boulders falling into it due to a rock face that was breaking off above it. So it was adding weight and pressure to this glacier. Over time, now those rock falls, they can contribute directly to climate change and the warming climate, especially there in the Alps. Jill, we're in a situation where in the coming decades, an area of the world that is very much known for its ski resorts and snow is warming at an ever quicker pace. Global warming, climate change isn't impacting every region equally. Certain parts of the world warming up much quicker, certain parts of the world becoming more drought, certain parts of the world becoming much more wet and flood prone. And in Europe in particular, they're warming at a much faster rate than the US. The Arctic is actually where the fastest warming is happening, the top of our planet right now. And there's a concern that more and more of this is going to happen in the coming years. And unfortunately, we might be seeing more of these situations.
All right, to some business news now from Mo News. e.l.f. Beauty has acquired model Hailey Bieber's skincare brand Rhode for about $1 billion. e.l.f.'s acquisition's the biggest ever in the company's history. This deal is expected to close later this year. Bieber is a 28-year-old model and influencer. She is married to Justin Bieber. She launched Rhode in June of 2022. Yes, about 3 years ago. As an everyday skincare brand, it has since generated about $212 million in revenue. That was for the fiscal year ending on March 31st. It's expanded to also include lip products and blush.
Jill, not only is she married to Justin Bieber, she's a Baldwin. She's the daughter of Stephen Baldwin being a brother of Alec Baldwin. So Hailey Bieber, also effectively Alec Baldwin's niece. Random fact for you is I think it's super important for everyone to know the family tree here of Hailey Bieber. Nonetheless, the acquisition here, pretty remarkable, Jill. I mentioned at the top of the podcast, I saw when she first launched it and was discussing it in front of business leaders. And I think there was an understanding that she had this incredible influence, this incredible following on TikTok. But the growth of this, the sales here, explosive. One of the reasons, this rare situation where she's gone from zero to $1 billion valuation in 3 years here. And what's interesting here about both e.l.f. and Rhode is they both appeal to multiple generations, but they're particularly popular with Gen Z. And so Rhode has a assortment of products, including pocket blushes, lip tints. On the pricier side, e.l.f., on the other hand, has been on the much more cheaper side. They got stuff that's more like $7, $4, a couple dollars here and there. And some of these Rhode products much more expensive than that. So they're going to have quite an assortment here. Now, interestingly, when it comes to e.l.f., they are very dependent on China. So tariffs have really had an impact here on e.l.f. products. About 75% of the products are made in China, subject to 55% tariffs due to their cost. And so, this was a strategic acquisition for e.l.f. here. Hailey Bieber plans to continue to play a significant role in the brand even after the acquisition. And it comes here, Jill, as we have seen so many celebs get in the business of various products, including cosmetics. We have celebrity skincare and beauty brands from the following celebs: Beyonce, Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, Jessica Alba, Jennifer Aniston, Serena Williams, Scarlett Johansson, Drew Barrymore, Alicia Keys, Selena Gomez, Ariana Grande. I could go on. They all have their own lines. Jill, collectively, when you add up these celebrity lines, we're talking more than $1 billion in sales alone. So the valuation's much higher than that. And when you look at the valuations here, Fenty Beauty by Rihanna, estimated value $3 billion as a company. Selena Gomez's Rare Beauty, estimated at $1 billion. Kim Kardashian's skin brand Coty, valued at $200 million. So, real numbers here. behind this, and it shows the power of the influencers, the power of the creators to really build out these brands, get names out there, and it's leading some of these larger companies to say, we got to buy them.
I'm feeling a Mo News beauty line, Moshe. What do you think?
Are we influential enough, Jill? For the elder millennials among
Maybe
you.
for the elder millennials.
Yeah.
Like for the Gen
I don't know about our Gen Z
Xers.
appeal. I don't know about our Gen Z appeal, but we would crush it with people in their 30s and 40s based on what I know about our demographic.
Well, the thing about people in their 30s and 40s.
They
and
got
older,
money.
They've got some money to spend. That's right.
They got some money to spend. We're definitely going to... Guys, we're going to launch a higher-end beauty brand here out of Mo News. Interestingly, if you're curious about Rode is Hailey Bieber's middle name. So that's where that name comes from. So my middle name is David. Jill, what's your middle name?
Robin.
David Robin. Robin David.
I know a David Robin.
You know David Robin? All right. Well, does he have a high-end beauty
He does
brand?
not. It's
All right,
available.
well,
we could do it.
We can do something with our middle names here. We'll work on it. If anybody has ideas, let us know. And then if anybody knows where we should turn to first, we're going to work on a beauty brand that caters to those of you where the wrinkles are showing up, but you don't want to have to do the Botox all the time. Jill, I think we know who our core demo is going to be.
It's us.
It's
It's the
We're looking
people who
at
are
each other.
scared. It's the people who
Yeah.
are scared to use AI or ChatGPT to find out if they're hot or not.
right.
That's who it is.
It's the people. You don't want to use the filters on Instagram. We want to show you our real skin, and we're going to get you the products for that. I know, Joe, we actually have a bunch of people in the dermatology business and skin business who listen to us. So I bet they're already hitting us up on Instagram this morning.
Our lines are open, as they say. And finally, to the latest survey on the happiest cities from CNBC, the Institute for the Quality of Life released its 2025 Happy City Index. Researchers tracked 82 indicators of happiness across 6 major categories: citizens, governance, environment, economy, health, mobility. According to the rankings, the happiest city in the world is Copenhagen.
Ooh.
The authors say, what is amazing about Copenhagen? First of all, its ability to be open for innovation. Its educational system is of very good quality, and it is affordable. However, it's not perfect. Copenhagen, yes, it's ranked number 1, but it still has issues like housing. Apartment prices there have doubled over the last 10 years. But we should note, of course, Copenhagen in Denmark, which is also ranked as the number 1 happiest country.
Yeah, no surprise there. Whenever the happy surveys come out, Scandinavia, the Nordic countries, they crush it. Then the Norways, the Finlands, the Swedens, the Denmarks. So not surprising there, Jill. Also probably not surprising that America doesn't make the top 10 when it comes to happiest cities. Though we do crack the top 20, Jill. I don't know if anybody guessed this right, but the one American city to crack the top 20, despite its cost, despite all the problems we have, I say we, that's your clue.
Start
spreading the news. New York City is number 17, folks. Number 17, cracking the top 20. Jill, they take this up to the 200 happiest cities in the world. By the way, New York's at number 17, in between 2 German cities, Berlin at 16, Dresden at 18. Next up, for those of you curious about American cities, number 30 is Minneapolis, second happiest American city on the index, just ahead of London, just slightly ahead of London. London sits there at number 31, following Minneapolis. And I'm just going to do the rest of the American cities on the top 200. San Diego, 34. DC, 43. Number 56, Salt Lake City, the 56th happiest city in the world, just ahead of Dusseldorf, Germany. Looks like we're really fighting with these German cities here. Number 63, Columbus, Ohio, just ahead of The Hague, Netherlands. Coming in at number 70, LA, 80, Seattle, 84, Baltimore. Look at you, Baltimore, make the top 100. San Antonio at 89, Nashville at 96, Indianapolis, 112, San Jose, California. You are the 119th happiest city in the world. Boston at 131, Portland, Oregon at 141. Coming in at 176, it includes the happiest place on earth, Jill, Disney World. But Orlando, Florida is the 176th happiest city in the world. And then bringing up the bottom 200 here, Phoenix at 181, Houston at 198, just behind Ankara, Turkey. Jill, my hometown, Chicago, not in the top 200. What's going on, Chi-Town?
I would guess it's the weather.
I mean, Minneapolis is number 3.
Yeah, you make a good point.
Just saying.
I don't know.
Minneapolis way colder than Chicago. I think Chicago, I don't know. We're all bummed out.
So I was surprised about New York City. I think because New York City gets a bad rap, but I actually saw these numbers one night when I happened to be in the city and I was taking the train back from Penn Station to Long Island, and there was a band playing and people were dancing, and I was just like, you know what? New York's got action. Maybe it is the happiest.
That's actually one of our best categories, is just like all the cultural stuff that's available in New York that makes citizens happy. Jill, not surprisingly, the lowest ranking, they have these categories like economy, health, mobility, environment, governance. The lowest category for New York is governance. We rank 226 for our crap governance here in New York City. But we could continue here, but we should probably let the folks go for the weekend, but not before. Cheers to the freaking weekend, folks.
All right, Moshe, time for what we're watching, reading, and eating. What are you watching?
All right, so final episode of Your Friends and Neighbors is out on Apple. That is the series I've been raving about with John Hamm and Olivia Munn. Alex and I have been binging it. Well, binging to the extent that you can. Apple releases an episode a week. But the final episode of season 1 is out, so I'll be checking that out. Jill, I read about this new Gen Z meets Friends sitcom over on FX called Adults. Apparently created by a couple folks from The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. It follows a group of 5 20-somethings living together in Queens. Gotten some good reviews as a comedy, so I might check that out on FX. That is Adults. And then I know that the new season, I just read the new season of And Just Like That is out. And Just Like That season 3. Jill, have you been following that? Are you going to be checking that out?
It's not for me. I was such a big Sex in the City fan.
Sex in the City, it is not, huh?
No, I was rooting for it too. It just... Yeah. It doesn't do it for me.
All right. Well, then what does it for you this weekend? What do you hope does it for you this weekend?
I did start Sirens on Netflix. It's kind of a dark comedy, I've heard it described as. It's with Julianne Moore. I'm on the first episode. I can't really tell if I like it or not yet, but I'm going to keep going. I like it enough to keep going.
And also, I think Megan Fahey of White Lotus is also on it, right?
Yes. Speaking of White Lotus, Moshe, I finally finished this last season.
Piper, no! You finally got there. Jill, do you also want to discuss like the series finale of like Mad Men and
Game of Thrones?
Ozark and Game of Thrones too, while you're at it? Welcome to the party.
The problem, of course, is that when I go to watch TV, I'm so tired. It's after I put my kids to bed, and I'm like, it's like painful how tired I am. So I usually fall asleep.
All right. Anybody have thoughts or still interested in talking about White Lotus? Jill's direct messages are open over on her Instagram page.
Look, if anyone still cares, we could record a quick 20-minute White Lotus debrief. It might be too late.
Jill, I need to rewatch White Lotus at this point. It's been so long.
Like, I don't even remember what happened.
I don't remember any of the characters' name. No, I mean, definitely, I remember some people died, but the order is now, it's fading. It's fading in my memory. All right, Jill, what are you reading this weekend?
Good old Atlantic, an article that caught my eye called The Perilous Spread of the Wellness Craze. Talks about how healthcare inequality fueled the spread of anti-science conspiracy theories. There's a new book out. It's called How to Be Well, Navigating Our Self-Care Epidemic, One Dubious Cure at a Time. And Moshe, I think because we spend a lot of time on social media, we are exposed to some of these healthcare conspiracy theories. And I do think it's just fascinating what is happening in that space.
Yeah, Jill, I'll definitely want to check out the story because there's also some things that are dubbed conspiracy theories that turn out to have some truth behind them too. So I look forward to seeing how they broke it all down in that article.
Okay, Moshe, what are you reading?
So there's a new book out in the next few days called How Texas Made the West Wild by Brian Burrow. I have a copy of it. It's basically the history of Texas, but effectively how Texas changed America and how Texas really came from a very violent past between the wars that it fought, as well as the history of the gun, the Colt gun, the Colt revolver, really taking off there in Texas. So looking forward to learning all things Texas history with this new book. And Jill, let's wrap it up with what we're eating this weekend.
Of course, my favorite category. So I somehow found myself once again at Bon Bon, that Swedish candy store. So I've been there twice. Have you been there once yet? There's one, Moshe, on the Upper East Side.
I am aware of it. I have not personally been, but my wife, it's on our list of places to get to. And now that you've brought it up again, I might head there this weekend as well.
I'm going to just give you my favorite thing about it, forgetting the candy. If you've been to a candy store, you know that it could be a little bit germy. There's scoopers for each candy, and everybody's like coughing and then touching the scooper. The one thing that I like about Bon Bon is that when you go in, you get your own scooper and you use it to fill your bag with whatever candy you want. And then when you're done, you hand it in as a dirty scooper, whatever it's called, and they clean it. And then I guess they give it to somebody else. But I like that method better. I think that that's a healthier way to do it, a healthier way to get your candy.
You know, if you can get your if you can use the word healthier on candy, go for it.
And because I don't want to use the same thing that I used before, I actually am going to Tommy Tacos. It is a taco place out here. They opened a location near where I live, and it is pretty good. Moshe, what are you eating?
Jill, I got a haircut yesterday in the Soho neighborhood. Went to Milk Bar, formerly Momofuku Milk Bar, but now just Milk Bar. They have that like cereal ice cream. It was awesome. I was eating it, enjoying myself as I headed into the subway. There were two Gen Zers that I ran into, and one said to me, "What are you eating?" And I said, "This is from Milk Bar across the street." And they said, "That looks fire." I go, "It is definitely not mid." And I was very proud of my use of Gen Z and Alpha generation talk, Jill. I can speak to the youths.
Moshe, I think you've got the lingo down. I actually got my wedding cake from Milk Bar.
Was it mid or fire?
Given that I don't even know what those mean, I'm going to say.
Was it skibbity?
No, skibbity is bad, right?
Yeah, I think it's bad. I think a skibbity cake would not be a good cake.
It had Riz.
It had Riz. The
as
cake.
much Riz as a cake could have.
I don't think you could give Riz to a cake. I think you should say the cake was fire. I think
well,
that's what I learned.
It was a funfetti cake, and I think it had some
details don't
Riz.
matter, Jill. It's the feeling it gave you.
Well, it was good. Is all I could say. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Mo News podcast. If you like what you hear, please share this with your friends. It will help us grow. Follow us and subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and review us kindly in the App Store. We'd appreciate it.
Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here on Monday.
Thanks for listening to the Mo News podcast. Have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed.